Hey guys, so I've been meaning to put a video up like all week, and it seemed like every time I went to make a video about something, something else would come up and I'd be like, okay, well I gotta make a video about that too. And so now I have like 4 things I want to make videos on. I'm just gonna make this one video on all the stuff that I wanted to talk about, because a lot has happened in the last week. So first off, I want to talk about what data miners have found in the new version 2.0.0. So a couple of weeks ago, it was found out that data miners had found 3 names in the code for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, and those 3 names were Jack, Paku, and Brave. Most people assumed Paku was Piranha Plant, Jack was probably Joker, and then there's been a bunch of debates about who Brave could be. Now that Piranha Plant is out and we have, version 2.0.0 out, people were hoping that data miners would be able to find maybe some other names or possibly some stat changes to Brave, as we've been looking at Brave's stats to try to figure out who it might be. And if those stats have been changed in some way, that might indicate what kind of fighter Brave could possibly be. So over on Twitter, a data miner named Mashima wrote, "Dumped fighter param.prc. Apparently they removed Jack and Brave from the file." Another data miner, Mizumi, wrote, "Oh, also the reason I didn't look into Smash data mine stuff yet is because the public tools I use crash when looking at the new data." So I'm not sure if Mizumi has found a workaround for that, but according to Mishima, the fighter names are gone now. So we actually have less information in the code than we did before. So this could mean that Nintendo maybe heard about this. It was pretty big news, especially Brave, and people assuming that's probably Erdrick from Dragon Quest. That was kind of all over the internet. So it's possible Nintendo heard about that and got rid of the names. I know some people were kind of critical of data miners because they held on to these names without telling the general public and kind of just kept it among inner circles, the names that have been found for a while before it got leaked to the public and everybody started talking about it. But obviously this might be why they do that sort of thing. I know some people are angry about that, but sometimes you want to hide that stuff because maybe if Nintendo didn't hear about it, maybe 2.0 would have come out and we could have gotten some more names if Nintendo didn't realize people had found them. Of course, it's also possible Nintendo just did a kind of sloppy job last time and were more thorough this time. And whether or not it was known publicly and it was all over the place that the name Brave was in the code somewhere, they might have still wiped it clean for 2.0. We really don't know for sure. Okay, so unfortunately nothing new from version 2.0.0 from the data miners. However, there's a really interesting theory going on right now. I'm just going to read what I found to be the earliest mention of this theory. This is a conversation over on a Discord channel, and it's between Mimikyu and Egg Timer. So Mimikyu says, "I also think there was a minor thing that really interested me. Everyone knows about the Plant Crashes All-Star thing, but there were 2 other characters that also did it, Me Sword Fighter and Duck Hunt." Mimikyu goes on to say, "Those 2 characters being the ones with modified data is bizarre to me. It could be something like Ice Climbers and Wario, and I wouldn't care, but those 2. And then Egg Timer says, "Wait, holy shit, that's a big brain theory." Mimikyu says, "Erdrick being based off Me Sword Fighter would make sense to me. Stubby sword fighter but with a normal longsword." And then Egg Timer says, "Banjo uses Duck Hunt base, Steve Minecraft uses Me Sword Fighter base." Okay, so the conversation's a little disjointed there, but this is when they were coming up with it, so, obviously it's a sort of free-form thought. Let me try to explain it a little better. So in All-Star mode for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate version 2.0.0, a lot of people have been reporting that their game saves are crashing when they play as Piranha Plant. So this means that Piranha Plant, being a new fighter, is doing something with All-Star mode that's just causing a glitch, something that they didn't notice when they put out version 2.0.0. However, there's 2 other fighters that do this as well, Me Sword Fighter and Duck Hunt Dog, or Duck Hunt, mattering to what region you have. So the interesting thing, or the theory that they're proposing, is that possibly the reason that Me Sword Fighter and Duck Hunt are causing the same glitch that Piranha Plant is causing is because maybe those characters are being used as a base to build some of the other DLC fighters. In the code for Piranha Plant, you can see that some of its moves are based on Bowser Jr. So they kind of use Bowser Jr. as a base for Piranha Plant. Sort of makes sense. Bowser Jr. is in the clown car, Piranha Plant's stuck in a pot or a pipe. So yeah, I could see that character being used as a base to create Piranha Plant. We know this happened in Smash 4 as well. Zero Suit Samus was used for Bayonetta, Ike was used to make Cloud. So this is something they've done before with DLC fighters, where they'll take an existing fighter and create a fighter around that base. So now the question becomes, why would two fighters who previously were totally fine in All-Star mode suddenly start making it glitch the same way Piranha Plant does? Well, maybe they're being used as base characters to create some of the DLC characters right now, and they didn't quite clean that up when they put out version 2.0.0. So who could me Sword Fighter and who could Duck Hunt Dog be base characters for? I think the best guesses are me Sword Fighter being used to make Erdrick from Dragon Quest. We have a ton of stuff saying that he's probably in the game. A lot of people think that might be who Brave is. And then Duck Hunt Dog. People have been saying for a long time that Duck Hunt Dog could be like that Banjo Kazooie could be an echo fighter of Duck Hunt Dog. That's been said for a long, long time. I never really bought into it. I don't think Duck Hunt Dog makes for a good echo fighter for Banjo Kazooie. Their moves just don't work. However, for a base character, in the same way that like Zero Suit Samus is a base for Bayonetta, or Ike is a base for Cloud, or Bowser Jr. is a base for Piranha Plant, Duck Hunt Dog works very well for Banjo Kazooie. So whether or not the fighter that's codenamed Brave in the data for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate is Erdrick or not, Erdrick is still very, very likely. Tons of leakers are saying he's probably in. We're supposedly going to get a Square rep. Virgin's been saying that for a really long time and saying that's probably Erdrick. Just about every leaker is saying that. So whether or not Brave is Erdrick or Erdrick is just one of the other DLC spots, when trying to figure out who Brave could potentially also be, we were looking at the stats for Brave. So we had things like Brave's run speed and Brave's weight. The way Brave was kind of a floaty jumper, sort of a sliding character. So some people were saying it might be Banjo Kazooie. I was looking at this in my video about who potentially Brave could be. And one of the things was that Brave's height stat could fit Kid Erdrick very well, but it could also fit someone who's a little taller than Ness and a little shorter than Mario. And if you have Duck Hunt Dog stand up, it actually fits that height. Now, if you were going to make Banjo Kazooie out of Duck Hunt Dog, you would probably have it, stand on its hind legs. I mean, what other character has a bird on its back when it's standing up like that? I mean, Duck Hunt Dog's perfect to make Banjo out of. And Banjo, honestly, could fit being about that height if you put him in. So I'm not saying Banjo is definitely Brave. I'm not saying Brave stats are definitely for Banjo or whatever. But all those things were kind of found out when trying to fit Banjo into those stats. And now that we have the idea that maybe Duck Hunt Dog is being used to make a DLC fighter, if you put Banjo in there, wow, it fits really, really well. Conversely, we also have me Sword Fighter being used, and again, that could fit Erdrick really well. So I don't think it really matters who Brave is, whether it's Erdrick or Banjo. I think both of those characters are now extremely likely based on this theory because of me Sword Fighter and Duck Hunt Dog probably being used to create some DLC fighters. There's also even another glitch outside of All-Star mode that happens when you use me Sword Fighter and Duck Hunt Dog together. I think you have to put a certain set of moves onto me Sword Fighter, which is interesting. Maybe that bizarre set of moves is the set that they're using to create whatever DLC fighter it is, Erdrick or someone else. And then you use Duck Hunt Dog's side B while you use the move from me Sword Fighter at the same time. It actually crashes the game. I'll post a link in the description to Game Explain going over this glitch. So that's a new glitch that happens between these two specific characters as well. So why are these two characters causing glitches in the game? There's no reason for them to have changed since before, unless they're being used as base fighters to create some of the DLC characters. So not only do we have this new theory that points to two characters that were already highly discussed for DLC, Erdrick and Banjo, both Erdrick and Banjo also got some more hints or some more evidence towards them coming out recently. So I'll go over the new evidence towards Erdrick first. Shinya Kumazaki, who's an employee of HALE Laboratory, he's currently the general director of the Kirby series, so obviously HALE Laboratory was created by Sakurai, Kirby was created by Sakurai, this guy's pretty close with Sakurai. He tweeted this recently. It's a picture of Kirby next to a shield from Dragon Quest, a shield that Erdrick sometimes uses when he is, in his armor mode. And Kumazaki Shinya here wrote in English, "The Brave's Shield." So that's pretty big. A lot of people have taken that as the final nail in the coffin that Brave is definitely Erdrick. I will say this. Shinya Kumazaki has in the past posted things before with that Kirby, I don't know if it's plush or figurine or something like that. He posted one that had Majora's Mask, for instance, and everybody was like, oh man, Skull Kid's definitely in Smash. So I can't say that his tweets point to characters for sure. However, the really interesting thing here is that he wrote in English, "The Brave's Shield." So a translation of Yusha being brave Japanese to English translation. We now have someone within, the Hale Laboratories family kind of conceding that they would translate Yusha or the hero of Dragon Quest's name as Brave and call it the Brave's Shield. So yeah, that's pretty big. I don't know if that definitely means for sure Erdrick is the character Brave, but we do know for sure that the Japanese would potentially translate the hero character from Dragon Quest as the word Brave. So regardless if Shinya's tweets here actually point to characters in Smash or not, I have to say I do think that the Square rep or one of our DLC fighters is going to be Erdrick from Dragon Quest. Just makes sense. A lot of leakers have been saying that. Everything I've heard, privately and everything, I'm feeling like it's probably going to be Erdrick. I've kind of conceded that at this point. That's probably going to be the Square rep. As a huge fan of Geno and somebody who really wants Geno, of course, I feel that's Erdrick's kind of the direct rival to Geno, and Sora and Chrono and Sephiroth and a lot of other characters I really want. I like a lot of Square characters. Neku, World's Ends With You. But yeah, it's probably going to be Erdrick, guys. I also want to just show these kind of interesting Erdrick. It's like a fake image leak, but they're pretty cool looking. I like the renders here. So before I get off the topic of Erdrick, check those out. Pretty cool. So that's not to say I'm completely giving up hope on Geno or any other Square characters. Could definitely happen. I don't think Erdrick is 100% yet until we see him and everything, but he is still the most likely one. And hey, we could get another fighter pass. So if there's a character you really want, Sora, Geno, hold out hope. It's very possible we'll get another fighter pass. Also slightly less likely, but it's possible we get 2 Square reps within this first fighter pass. I'm sort of more thinking that Banjo and Steve could happen, 2 Microsoft reps, but I don't know, maybe 2 Square reps could happen too. So hey, hold out hope for characters, but I still think Erdrick is looking extremely likely. It'd be pretty foolish to believe he's not, the front runner right now. Okay, so let's move on from Erdrick and talk about the new stuff for Banjo. So the big thing right now is that Indie Gamer Chick over on Twitter posted some information that really sounds like she's saying that we're going to be getting some rare stuff with Nintendo. Specifically, it seems like an N64 Classic Edition at some point, and probably Banjo Kazooie in Smash. So I'm going to read the tweet that she posted. So Indie Gamer Chick wrote, "So how much did I know about the Xbox on Switch stuff? A lot. We actually owe this to Rare and Nintendo wanting some Rare stuff for some upcoming products. Some stuff you'll stick in your TV, some DLC for your games." Okay, so Indie Gamer Chick is talking about the new announcement that Xbox Live is probably going to be coming to Nintendo Switch, something I don't think many people were expecting. And then the stuff that she ends with saying that there's going to be something Rare related to stick into your TV and some DLC for your games. Most people are assuming that's pointing towards an N64 Classic Edition with Rare games, as we've all been kind of discussing that an N64 Classic Edition would be pretty incomplete without some Rare titles. GoldenEye, Banjo Kazooie, Diddy Kong Racing, these are important titles. And then DLC for your games. Well, what game could possibly be getting DLC with something from Rare? Probably Super Smash Bros. Getting Banjo Kazooie. Seems to be what most people are guessing here. Indie Gamer Chick went on to say, "I think people will find upcoming announcements to be all-time classics and probably very smashing as well." So right in there, we got the word classic, N64 Classic Edition, and we got the word smashing, so Super Smash Brothers. Seems like that's what she's pointing towards. Now, she deleted that initial tweet not long after it went up. It got a lot of attention. Obviously, anything with Smash tends to get a lot of attention. So the question really becomes, how trustable as a leaker is Indie Gamer Chick? Has she ever gotten anything right? Does she have a good track record? Well, over on my Discord, people have heard information from her and say that she has, in fact, given them real leaked information in the past. I'll go a little bit further than that. I actually was contacted by someone who will remain anonymous. If they want to come out and say who they are, feel free to do so. But they contacted me back in October. This was actually on Halloween. So this was right before the November Direct. This was when the Grinch leak was strong. So these are the 2 quotes I want to show you guys that I was told months ago. This was, again, on Halloween. So literally right before we got the November Direct. This was right when the Grinch leak was really strong. And I was talking a lot about hearing about Banjo. So the quote is, "A pro tag from Resident Evil, but the person with this info is Indie Gamer Chick." And then the second quote here is, "The ones I've heard are an echo of the Resident Evil fighter, It's a Weird Story, and Banjo. But from what she's said, Nintendo has a lot more going on with Microsoft than just Smash or the N64 Classic." Now again, this wasn't from Indie Gamer Chick, this was from someone else who had gotten information from her. And they were telling me this. I had a ton of people telling me information right before that final direct. We were all trying to figure out if the Grinch leak was true or not, all talking about, what we had heard behind the scenes, what supposed leaks people had heard about. So I was, carefully weighing different things, and this was one that I heard, kept in the back of my mind, and didn't really pay too much attention to it. Shortly after the November Direct came out, the person came to me and said that the Resident Evil stuff was now definitely not true. And this doesn't mean we can't get a Resident Evil DLC character, but whatever the leak was coming from was not true. Specifically, they're saying something about an Echo Fighter of some Resident Evil character. Obviously, we know since the November Direct that none of the DLC will be Echo Fighters, it'll all be new characters. But the stuff about Nintendo having a lot going on with Microsoft beyond Smash and N64 Classic, we now have seen that. We have Xbox Live coming to Switch. So Indie Gamer Chick was right about that piece, and she's not just coming out of nowhere with this information. Again, this was months ago. Someone was telling me that she had heard Banjo, in Smash, basically, it seems to be what they're saying, N64 Classic, and more stuff between Nintendo and Microsoft. We've now seen that last part, that part about more stuff with Nintendo and Microsoft. Now, just a couple disclaimers before people take this too far out of context. This was a private message that someone gave to me, not Indie Gamer Chick again, someone else gave to me, just talking about information they had heard from her. So the thing about Resident Evil being wrong, keep in mind, I don't know if she ever went public with that information or not, but keep in mind that, remember when Vergaben was talking to, I think, LOZ18 about there not being any Donkey Kong characters in Smash. No more Donkey Kong characters. This was before K-Roll came out. But that was a private message that LOZ18 leaked, and Vergaben was mad about it. People behind the scenes, when they're doing private messages, will talk way more openly about leaks and stuff they've heard when they're not very sure about it. I do the same thing. If people come to me in a private message, I'll be way more open about, oh yeah, I heard a rumor about this, or some random person told me that. So the Resident Evil thing doesn't have to come to pass. That might be just something she heard. She told people in, private, and I was told that, just pass along information, and that part is now false. However, that doesn't mean the whole thing is wrong. She may be getting information from multiple sources. Most people do. So, the thing about Banjo, Smash, N64 Classic, Microsoft, Nintendo working together, now that things are coming together, Microsoft and Nintendo doing Xbox Live, that side might be true. And I just want to point out that, yes, she did say this months ago. I heard about it. So, even though she just went public with it recently, it does have some history behind it. This isn't out of nowhere that she's just coming up with this because suddenly Xbox Live is happening on Switch. And then a final disclaimer, because this is talking about Banjo. I still talk to my source. I still trust my source wasn't trying to lead me astray or anything. They had just heard from a Microsoft source that Banjo was in Smash, and that was part of the reason why the Grinch leak seemed so real to me specifically and to my source. But since we have not heard from the Microsoft source, we're now doubting the Microsoft source. However, if Indie Gamer Chick did in fact hear the same sort of thing, and now more of what she's heard was happening, just because I didn't hear anything more from the Microsoft source doesn't mean that they weren't always true. We really could get Banjo here. Vergaben's obviously been hearing Minecraft content. Hatagi has straight up been saying Steve for a while. I think Zen Others on board with Steve. I don't think it's impossible for us not to get both Steve and Banjo. In fact, I think E3 this year, considering Sony isn't going to be there, and now that we have Nintendo and Microsoft working close together, I wouldn't be surprised if both Steve from Minecraft and Banjo from Banjo Kazooie get announced for Smash, and I would put money on it probably happening at E3. So a big joint thing between Microsoft and Nintendo happening, specifically with two characters part of this DLC for Smash, not out of the question whatsoever. So I'm actually thinking Banjo and Steve are both very likely characters right now. Okay, so there you go. Hope I could shed a little bit more light on the Indie Gamer Chick thing, because I saw a lot of people take it right away and go, "Oh man, this is great." Banjo's in Smash, and then a lot of people kind of brush it off as being she deleted the tweet, and I don't know who she is. Is she a leaker? Is this coming from anywhere? I just hope I can shed a little bit more light there. That this is something I had been hearing about behind the scenes, specifically her having this information for months now. So yeah, it's something worth looking at, if nothing else. that's everything we got going towards Erdrick and Banjo right now. So we got a really good theory with Mii Sword Fighter and Duck Hunt being used to make Erdrick and Banjo. And then we have some interesting tweets here. We have a tweet from a Hale employee pointing towards Erdrick, specifically brave being a term used for Erdrick. And then we have, Indie Gamer Chick saying that alluding to that Banjo is probably coming to Smash. So those are both really big things. I will say one final note about the theory for Mii Sword Fighter and Duck Hunt. So it's interesting that we don't seem to have a character crashing all-star mode that could fit as a base character for Joker. So I don't know if that means maybe Joker isn't as far along in development as Erdrick and Banjo, which would be a little strange, as that's supposedly our first Fighter Pass character. Maybe Joker's totally done. I don't know. We haven't seen any gameplay. Or maybe there is a character that's crashing all-star mode and it just hasn't been heavily reported. So I don't know. That's the one weird thing with that theory, is that we don't have a base character that could fit for a base character for Joker, causing the same sort of glitches that Mii Sword Fighter and Duck Hunt are. I suppose Mii Sword Fighter maybe isn't for Erdrick, maybe that's for Joker and they haven't started Erdrick yet. I don't know. Virgin was saying the square character, most likely Erdrick, was going to be the first fighter announced. Instead it was Joker. So yeah, it's kind of weird. If anybody can find a fighter that also causes all-star mode to crash and delete your save, obviously I don't want people going out trying that, but if anybody has heard a report of that other than Mii Sword Fighter, Duck Hunt, and Piranha Plant, please let me know, because that fighter could fit for Joker, and if they do seem to have like a similar body type or the type of character you might use to make Joker, yeah, that adds all the more credibility to that theory. Okay, so now some other interesting stuff going on. Like I said, there's a lot that happened this week. I wanted to make separate videos for a bunch of stuff, but I'm just going to jam it all into this video, so I hope you like long podcast-type videos, because that's what we're going for here. Christina V, who's a voice actress, wrote over on Twitter, "Oh, just about to work on one of the biggest games ever." So Christina V does the voice of a lot of different characters, specifically two characters that a lot of people are thinking could possibly get into Smash. Edelgard from the Fire Emblem series, who is a female character who uses an axe, so that would actually be a pretty interesting Fire Emblem character if Nintendo dares add another Fire Emblem character to Smash. At least it'd be an interesting character. And then Shantae. So obviously there's a ton of fans of Shantae. Who knows about the whole do spirits deconfirm characters or not thing? I don't know, but Shantae has been talked about for a long time. So she's the voice actress for both of those characters. So a lot of people were jumping on biggest game of ever. Is that Smash? Who knows if that's the game she's talking about or not. And this is the type of thing too that it's a voice actress. People can be happy to lend their voice to something, even if they're not a playable character. So who knows what's happening here, or if it's, again, even Smash, that, she would be tweeting about here. Okay, so on the subject of do spirits deconfirm characters or not, I got some hints towards Geno happening. So yeah, I'm hugely biased towards Geno, but there's actually a surprising amount of Mario RPG references that are happening since 2.0.0. The small amount of things that were added to the game, there's actually a couple of Super Mario RPG references, so that's really interesting. In my last video about Piranha Plant and the things I noticed immediately about it, I talked about the Palutena's guidance for Piranha Plant, and I mistakenly thought that Palutena was talking about Piranha Plant when she says, "Quiet, she'll hear you." Then Viridi jumps in really loudly, and Viridi's always kind of a jerk, so I only watched the guidance once through, and my initial response was that since Piranha Plant has like that sleeping animation and stuff, for whatever reason I thought it was like, don't wake up Piranha Plant, and then when Viridi was loud and talking about Piranha Plants, it was just Viridi being a jerk about that. So whatever, I thought Piranha Plant was probably the she that Palutena was talking about. Upon further inspection, it's almost certainly Viridi. Tons of people wrote this in the comments, so yeah, thanks guys. Upon watching it for a second time, with the knowledge that Viridi was about to talk a lot about Piranha Plants, it's pretty obvious it's probably Viridi. So what's Piranha Plant's gender? I don't know. I honestly don't really care, so it's kind of a meme at this point, but whatever. The far more interesting thing that happens in that guidance, though, that went totally over my head is a Super Mario RPG reference. So within that giant list of different piranha plants that Verity just starts babbling on about, she mentions Mega Smilax. Mega Smilax is a boss from Super Mario RPG. It's a piranha plant boss character. Mega Smilax is the boss at the end of Land's End when right before you go up on the big beanstalk to go to Nimbus Land. It's that boss, and the name Mega Smilax is a Super Mario RPG name. So for Nintendo to just name drop it within Palutena's guidance, they'd have to get the okay from Square. It's the sort of joint ownership over names and stuff that is why Nintendo basically can't use Booster or Boshi or all these Super Mario RPG characters. So it appears that Nintendo has some sort of rights to that name. So one of two things happened here. Nintendo got Mallow and Geno, because there's spirits of them, and they have the rights to use them in Smash. So there you go. I could see Nintendo giving some money or whatever, trying to get the okay, whether or not it costs money, from Square to use those characters. However, I kind of don't think Nintendo would say, hey, Square, can we use Geno, Mallow, and then Mega Smilax for this tiny name drop? I don't think they do that. So most likely they got an umbrella deal to just use anything Super Mario RPG in Smash. Okay, so that makes sense. Why not? But there's not that much Super Mario RPG stuff in Smash. There's only Geno, Mallow, and now a bizarre name drop mention of one boss from Super Mario RPG. So if they have the rights to use Super Mario RPG stuff, why isn't there like one Super Mario RPG music track at least? It has great music. Why wouldn't you put a track in? There's no stage. There's not a ton of spirits from Super Mario RPG. There's just Geno and Mallow. So it's really suspicious that Nintendo would go about getting this full, umbrella agreement to use anything Mario RPG in Smash, but not use it to its full extent. It would be even more bizarre again if they just got Geno, Mallow, and then one boss name. So I'm thinking it must be some umbrella agreement. Now, I want to keep my expectations in check. I'm still thinking Erdrick is the likely Square rep, but I kind of am now thinking that we might be getting some more Mario RPG stuff further down the road. Let's say Erdrick gets in and we get Mii costumes back. So maybe we'll get the Geno Mii costume back. That would make more sense to get an umbrella agreement Super Mario RPG stuff. Supposedly music comes with the characters, so maybe it's not going to be all Dragon Quest music. For instance, Final Fantasy only has 2 tracks, so maybe with Square, instead of getting a bunch of Dragon Quest music, which would be very difficult, supposedly the composer for Dragon Quest is notoriously hard to work with, maybe we'll get some other Square music, maybe some Chrono Trigger stuff, maybe some Mario RPG stuff, maybe some Secret of Mana stuff. I'm just speculating here, but I'm kind of thinking we'll get more Mario RPG stuff. Whether or not that means Geno is a playable character, say for Fighter Pass number 2, or it's not Erdrick, it's Geno, I don't know, but I do think we're going to get something else Mario RPG. I think it'd be really, really strange for Nintendo to go out of their way to get the rights to Geno, Mallow, and then Mega Smilax, and not just everything Mario RPG. And if they got the rights to everything Mario RPG, they're going to use it for at least some more stuff. Mii costume, some music tracks. So I'm expecting more Mario RPG stuff now. I mentioned this last video, but even the end congratulations screen for Piranha Plant is a Mario RPG reference. It's a bunch of Piranha Plants singing with Toon Link conducting it. This is a direct reference to the Japanese Super Mario RPG commercial.
RPG, Super Mario RPG, role-playing game, やったことない人も OK!
Whether or not we get more Super Mario RPG stuff, I'm now suspecting we probably will. I will say all these little references and nods do show that Sakurai does hear the fans, does hear that we like Mario RPG. I mean, what other game does any mention of Mario RPG? Not since Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga with the tiny Geno cameo have we gotten anything Mario RPG in a Nintendo game besides Sakurai bringing the Geno costume and the Geno spirit and stuff into Smash. So yeah, I mean, Sakurai does hear us. He is, listening to us. Whether or not we get Geno as a playable character, that might be all between Nintendo and Square. That might not be Sakurai. So maybe Sakurai is just giving us these little nods because he knows the fans like Mario RPG, and he wants to do everything he can to show he does too. Not to harp too long on Geno here, but a friend of mine over on my Discord also came to me with this kind of interesting theory. So SmithyGCN, I'm assuming that's Smithy, GameCube, Nintendo, does awesome little sprite work, actually. He's a really cool guy. He came up with this cool theory and sent it over to me. Obviously, there's this big debate over whether or not spirits deconfirm characters. Can we get a spirit character as a playable character? Can Geno get in? Can Shantae get in? Can Rayman get in? They're all spirits. And he brought this point up to me. Basically, he said that Piranha Plant's Final Smash is PD Piranha. We've known this for a while, but we also have a PD Piranha spirit. Little Mac has a Gigamac spirit. So we sort of have a spirit right now that's become a playable character, sort of as a DLC character. So Piranha Plant's only kind of a DLC fighter. PD Piranha is just his Final Smash. So we've had this happen. It's not 1-on-1. It's not a spirit character definitely becoming a playable character, but it is interesting that a character that was already a spirit is now a playable character's Final Smash. So somewhat part of that playable character. In the same way, again, Little Mac has like Gigamac as a spirit. So it's interesting. I don't know if it means something one way or the other. I'm sort of in the boat that if Nintendo really wants to do a character that's a spirit, they're going to do it. If they already planned the characters out while they were doing the spirits, whatever, they're not going to do it because they already have the characters planned out. Is the DLC mostly going to be third-party characters? Kind of looking like it will be. Will there be a second fighter pass that does allow spirits? I don't know. There's a lot of questions up in the air. But yeah, I think we're open for anything. If Nintendo surprises us and one of these spirits does become a playable character, don't be too surprised. If we get our DLC and it's all third-party characters and none of which are, spirits, don't be surprised either. It really could go either way. We don't know. And now just one final interesting thing I want to talk about real quick that I noticed with the new version 2.0.0 in Piranha Plant. So Piranha Plant's classic mode is called New Bloom, and in it you fight all the newcomer characters. You fight every single newcomer character in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. So that's sort of the theme of Piranha Plant's classic mode. At the end, you fight a boss, and that boss is Rathalos from Monster Hunter. Now, Monster Hunter doesn't have a playable newcomer character, so is Rathalos pointing to a newcomer character as one of our DLC fighters? Are we going to get a Monster Hunter character announced? A lot of people have been kind of speculating that a really likely DLC character might be Monster Hunter. It's a really big game from Capcom. It seems like a possible character we get. There was a Monster Hunter Mii costume. We now have Rathalos as a boss character and an assist trophy. So yeah, it's could happen, and this could be a nod to it. Could also be that Rathalos is representing Monster Hunter, and that's all we're going to get, and that character's new, so that's the end of the newcomer classic mode adventure for Piranha Plant. I don't know either way, but it's interesting. I thought it was worth noting, and if we do get a Monster Hunter, I'd say, yeah, that was a in-game hint for that, but who knows? All right, there you go, everybody. I know it was a lot of stuff to talk about. In my opinion, the most interesting stuff is the stuff with Erdrick and Banjo, specifically that Duck Hunt theory and what Indie Gamer Chick was talking about, the Mii Sword Fighter Duck Hunt theory, and then Indie Gamer Chick saying, that she believes that some rare stuff is coming to something for DLC and something that you plug into your TV. So most likely N64 Classic and probably Banjo as Smash DLC. If I had to guess right now, I'd say that the most likely DLC characters are Erdrick from Dragon Quest, Banjo from Banjo Kazooie, and Steve from Minecraft. I know I didn't talk too much about Steve in this video, but all the stuff that Steve has going for him, a lot of leakers pushing that Minecraft in some form is going to be coming to Smash. I do think Steve is still likely. Again, even with Banjo probably being a DLC fighter, if that is what's being alluded to here, I still think that Steve could happen alongside Banjo. You could have, like I said, at E3, Banjo and Steve announced. Also possible you get Banjo as a playable character, Steve is like a Mii costume, maybe I don't know, a Minecraft arena with Banjo as the character. I feel like the characters are going to get music, arena, and everything, all from their same series at this point. But we don't know for sure. So, yeah, I would say Erdrick, Banjo, and Steve are the most likely DLC characters right now, given all the information. So, what do you guys think? Do you think I'm off about that? Do you think something else is going on here? Do you have anything to say about any of that? The stuff about Square and Mega Smilax being mentioned. Is that interesting to anybody? Do they think more Mario RPG stuff is coming? Do you think that points to Geno instead of Erdrick? Do you think the whole Mii Sword Fighter Duck Hunt Dog thing is actually, a viable theory here? Do you think that that does point to new fighters being used, those fighters being used as base from new DLC fighters? Do you think what Indie Gamer Chick is talking about is credible? Do you think that's going to happen? So let me know what you guys think about any of that stuff in the comments below. Hopefully we get a Nintendo Direct soon. It's been a long time. I actually think this is the longest break between Nintendo Directs. The last one was in September. We did get a Smash Direct in November, and we got Joker revealed at the Game Awards in early December, but an actual just, Nintendo Direct, it's been a long time. So hopefully we get one either, probably next week, I would hope. It's been, again, a really long time, and there's a lot of stuff that I'm curious about that I'm waiting for Nintendo to say something about. I don't know if the whole Metroid Prime going back to square one and getting handed over to Retro Studios had them scrap whatever direct they had ready. I really have no idea, so hopefully we get something soon because I'm itching for information. So once again, thank you guys for all the subscribes, all the likes. It really helps out the channel. So if you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and do so, or like the video, or leave a comment, whatever you want. Until next time, have a good one.